Imagine. Imagine you're in a house by the river, and the river is the Ganges in West Bengal, in India. It's a warm July night. It's moist and it begins to rain. Slowly at first, and then harder and harder. Then there's thunder and lightning, and you begin to hear screams. You begin to hear people running. You step out of your house and you see everyone going helter skelter. One person has a baby under their arm, a man has a television on his head, and they're grabbing anything they can get their hands on and running. You grab stuff too, and you run as well. You run hard. You run and run until you're soaked to the skin. The next morning, the devastation is plain. The river has eaten up half your village for the 17th time, and now the river is at your doorstep. The river has chewed through paddy fields and turned it into this. Why? Why is a river chewing up its own banks and pushing people inland until they have nowhere else to go? We're landlords to bed and beggars to rise, they say. Why it's doing this? It used to not be like this. Every river does meander in its lower plains, and the people living on its banks know to expect erosion. But this is something different. And for the last 50 years, the Ganga has been doing this. What happened 50 years ago? In 1971, India built a dam across the Ganga, ostensibly to flush out the port of Calcutta, which was silting up. What the engineers did not realize was that Calcutta is on a delta, and the tide brought in 78 times the volume of water than the river could push out. So, of course, the port could not be desilted. What the dam also did was that it held back silt. Ganga is the siltiest river on earth. You don't just build a dam on the Ganga and forget about it. The silt begins to build up behind the dam and raise the riverbed such that the river has no place to go. The right side bank is rocky. The left side is a soft, rich, fertile soil full of paddy fields, mango orchards, villages, marketplaces, hospitals, schools, homesteads, and it gulps everything year after year for 50 years. Oftentimes, it's not the river that devastates, but what we do to it that does. And as a result, hundreds of thousands of people have been rendered homeless, environmental migrants, refugees in their own land. Shorn of livelihood, they are forced to move to overstuffed cities, sans any identity, sans agency, and left to the vagaries of market sources. Those that are left behind in devastated and depleted landscapes with no support whatsoever. With no sources of income, children are married off early. Child marriage is rampant. Every child above the age of 6 is pressed into labor. Child labor is rampant. Infant mortality rates, maternal mortality rates are through the roof. But here's the rub. What this dam does is not limited just to the area around the dam. 400 kilometers downstream is the largest unbroken stand of mangrove forests in the world, a richly biodiverse area, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that depends upon the delicate balance of sweet water and brine. What the dam does is that it diverts the sweet water or fresh water away from the delta and towards Calcutta, the port of Calcutta. And this means that salinity takes over and it is destroying the forest. What the dam also does is hold back the silt. And the silt is vital to replenish and shore up the delta against rising sea levels. Sans the silt, the delta is sinking. And then there's the fish. An anadromous fish, an Indian shad, used to swim all the way upstream to spawn. But now the dam interrupts its progress and it can no longer reach its spawning grounds. This has collapsed one of the most lucrative fisheries in South Asia, plunging hundreds and thousands of fishermen deep into debt. And millions of children are growing up sans an education, sans any healthcare, severely malnourished. This is India's vaunted demographic dividend. We, as chroniclers of the land, have an opportunity and a responsibility to tell these stories, to tell the stories and smash the silos of narrow interdepartmental thinking that causes such flawed and misguided decisions as the Farakka Dam to be taken. Stories have power. Stories have the power to illuminate the interconnectedness, the interdependencies within a biogeographic region beyond political boundaries, and thus help frame policies that do not undermine the innate resilience of a landscape and of its denizens, both human and non human, such that they can combat anything that nature might throw at them. Thank you.
I think and hope we have Arati joining us now. Do we have Arati joining us live from India? Is Arati there? Yes. Hi there.
Hello. Hi.
And I want to invite a couple students or anybody, if you've got a question or comment for Arati, go to the mic right now while I ask the first one, and then I'll come over to you. Arati, you talked about telling stories and chronicling the land to smash silos. How do you do that without turning people off? How do you do that so that you get a more receptive audience so you can smash the silos?
That's the million-dollar question, and I think it's a long road to that hallowed goal. But it is something that that you start small. You start having these conversations. You start having debates. You start talking about it. You start telling these stories. Of course, as Catherine Boo says, that we're not sure that these stories can actually change policies, but hopefully, maybe better policies will be crafted if the stories of ordinary people are known. And so I think as storytellers, it's our duty to keep talking about this and telling these stories and, lifting it out of obscurity into the spotlight and shining a spotlight because, guess what? This is not just once. This is happening even as I speak now, again and again and again. And so it's up to us to, keep at it and chip away at these silos. It's not going to happen in one fell swoop, unfortunately.
Silos are hardening in some cases, and so it becomes an ongoing challenge. We have a question, I see, from the floor. So would you introduce yourself and fire away?
Definitely. So thank you all so much. Thank you all for being here. Arati, thank you for your work. My name is Candace Clark, also known as Cando, the farm plug, and I am a PhD student at the illustrious Tuskegee University. And so, yes, you can clap for that. It's okay. Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver, right? And so my question, Arati, is basically coming from a place like Tuskegee or a place like India, how do you see your culture as a tool to create alternative forms of value as we move towards a new future?
It's interesting. I think every land, mine, that is India, yours, every land has lessons in and of itself. I think what we need to do is listen to the land and pay attention to local geographies. If we lose sight of local geographies, that's when we can be manipulated and misguided and wrong, inappropriate technology stuffed down our throat. So I think it behooves each one of us to educate ourselves about the local geographies and about what our land is built for, or the characteristics of our land, and use appropriate or push for appropriate technologies for that land. And if every one of us does that, I think we'll come up with solutions very organically, and it'll be far more scalable and far reaching than just adopting from one place to another. I think it's very important for us to pay attention to that local geography.
Arati, thank you very much.